The Financial Huddle does not provide tax, legal, financial, or other professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to consult with their own advisors in these areas.
All right, everybody, huddle up. The play calls in. This is the Financial Huddle. Ready? Break.
Welcome back, Huddle Nation, to the Financial Huddle. This is Brian Manier, and as always, I'm joined by my compadres, Ed B. Miller, Ryan Fleming.
What's up, everybody?
Hello, huddlers.
How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Well.
Ryan, I see you are repping the OU shirt today.
OU, oh yeah.
OU, oh yeah. And you are in the thick of your daughter now attending college. That is 2 out of the house for you.
I got 2 in, man. It's painful. It's
financially or emotionally?
Both of them, man.
Yeah.
I don't like
above.
it. I know it's a good step and a needed step, but man, let me tell you.
So your daughter's going to OU.
Yeah,
and
she's loving it there and doing well. Just brand new, moved in August, and my oldest is a senior, and it's kind of like one's coming in, one's going out, and trying to get them off my payroll as fast as possible, but not speed up time too much.
Yep. I understand and empathize with that because it's a different phase, and Ed, you know this very well, but it's a different phase of trying to parent when your kids are not in the home.
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't lose those responsibilities, but you're still trying to figure out what is the right cocktail for that.
It is. It's a very difficult thing, but ongoing.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, Ed, you got 2 married kids, and a little bit different phase of life. Ryan and I are trying to catch. How's that working out for you?
Notice this little smile on my face. I don't have to live vicariously through you guys because I actually experienced it.
Yes.
And it's nice to have them through school and basically living their own lives, married, but your children are always your children.
Yeah.
And so from that standpoint, that support and the need for parental guidance still exists.
You mean when they graduate, they don't turn into these super mature young adults that we all hope that they would?
No.
I try to tell my son, listen, man, if I'm paying for stuff, I got to say, I can speak into your life still.
I think that's fair.
There are ongoing life lessons.
Ongoing.
And every once in a while, my 85-year-old mother will remind me of some things too.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
We're always learning.
You're never too old to learn or to be told by a parental figure what you're doing wrong.
So, and if your kids are listening, you're going to be like, I can't believe he's talking about
Yeah.
it. But which one of your 2 would you feel like, from a financial standpoint, this being a financial podcast, which one would you say is more with it mature when it comes to financial matters?
Well, you always, having my daughter is a couple years older than my son. So my daughter's 30, my son's 28. I think girls and Ryan, you can, both of you 2 can speak to this, mature a little bit quicker than the males.
In certain areas, for sure.
Obviously, which I've talked about before, my daughter is, a family doctor. She's an MD. And with that comes great responsibility, but then also some financial flexibility. And both of my children are doing great, but, part of this, when they initially got out of school, you think, all right, I told both the kids, listen, you got 4 years to get your degree. Anything above and beyond, I don't believe in the 5 to 6 year plan. Now, both of my children got their undergraduate degree in 4 years. Well, then my daughter went to 4 years of med school, all that stuff. But that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But yeah, the kids often will move home or not. One of mine moved back home soon after college. The other one went right into med school. My daughter did. But my son moved back, and I said, listen, you got to take advantage of this. You got someone basically doing your laundry, because my wife continued to do his laundry, pretty much, feeding you food. You got meals prepped. You got none of these additional utility expenses. Everything's paid for, but then it only lasts so long, right? They're like, I got to get out of here. I got to live my life, man. I got to enjoy stuff. So, my son moved out, and with that, he moved down in the Italian Village area with another a friend from school, but his mail kept coming to us.
Yeah.
And so there'd always be, we'd see him on a regular basis, and half the time I would just, basically say, hey, here you go, here's your mail. But I like to be a little inquisitive, so the parental part of me kind of kicked in. And
Are you saying you may or may have not opened a few pieces of mail?
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. But once again, if there was financial assistance being provided, I felt I earned that.
Ryan said, when you pay the bills, you have some rights.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a situation, we talk about, obviously, this is a financial podcast, right? We have to remind ourselves sometimes when we're just sitting here, chewing the fat, is, I decided to open up his credit card. And I remember this because my daughter, who was in med school at that time, got approved for a credit card. My son got approved for a credit card, and his credit limit was over double my daughter's. And she's like, what the heck? How can this be? I said, well, he's got a job. He's out at, school, this kind of stuff. You're still in school. But I opened it up, and I was a little bit in shock because the credit card had been utilized, and it was near the maximum amount. And if you haven't looked at a credit card statement recently, and you're looking at what are the actual interest rates on them, we're talking interest rates, 22, 24, 26% plus.
Ouch.
So in this case, and I actually read, the language attached to it. It said, listen, if you make the minimum payment, which was like, I don't know, it was like $300 some a month or high twos, it will take you 22 and a half years to pay off that credit card. So I took the opportunity as a parent and as a financial professional to sit him down and say, all right, listen, bud, here's what we're going to do. Dad's going to pay off your credit card. Okay. Now, he happened to have his bank account, which I helped him set up at the same bank that I did. So I had the ability to transfer funds, set up different things.
Little debit credit opportunity there.
And I used access to one of the strategies that we talk to our clients a lot about, which is a high cash value insurance-based plan, which, Ryan, what do you call that?
Bank on yourself.
Bank on yourself. What's the other term you always use?
LERP. Life insurance retirement plan.
There we go.
There you go. LERP.
And what I was able to do for him is lend him that money. We paid off. And I said, all right, just put that credit card to the side. I actually wanted him to cut it up, but I didn't want him to not have any credit card. But he paid me back just slightly more, maybe about $50 more a month. We had his credit card balance paid off in 2.5 years. And he would basically just make that payment into my account. I set up basically a loan repayment to automatically came out of my account. Everything just washed. And I probably saved him, thousands of dollars in interest expense with that. But, that's the importance of what we talk about and why we're here, the whole financial literacy and understanding. Hey, listen, just because you got a plastic card that gives you the ability to purchase, it doesn't mean just go all out and buy up to the limit, because you got to be able to pay it back or you pay the consequences, right? There's consequences to everything we do in life. And a 24 to 26% interest consequence is something that's going to stay with you.
I got a feeling that it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Our culture.
Yeah, more often than not. We become a culture that basically buys and spends, and then if we have anything left over, maybe we'll put it into something, right? Put it into a money market account or some other type of investment or savings vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, in our household, we're trying to have conversations with our adult kids about habits, about when you spend, what does that mean? Because it's very easy when you do have the credit card just to spend and not even realize what you're doing. And so creating those habits, and that lends into what we're going to talk about today is common financial fumbles, how to avoid them. And there's a number of different things we can talk about, but I know, Ryan, you love stats.
I am.
You're our stat friend
Stat
here.
man.
I'm a stat guy.
Yeah.
I
Bring
like
it in,
stats.
Stat, man. Bring it home for
Yeah.
us.
So
What-
share
what
some
we got
stats
here?
about some of the habits, some
my
of the
goodness.
savings that we've seen over decades.
I was thinking about this, what would be interesting for our listeners and people watching. And so what I did is I actually went back to the post Great Depression era. And I wanted to identify and know some stats about their savings, their debt habits, their lifestyle numbers in comparison to today. So let me just rattle off some things. So back in the 40s, the savings rate on average was around 20 to 25% of their income. This is during the World War II era. That's incredible. Today, the savings rate is 4 to 6% of income. A lot of, cautious spending, a lot of frugalness back then with those people that survived the Great Depression. Our culture is all about consumption. Like Ed said, low cash savings.
Oh,
right? Debt, just minuscule consumer debt in the 40s, no credit cards. Their mortgages were shorter term, like 10, 15-year mortgages. And, even today, if you look at today, the average home is around 2,300 square feet. We mostly have 30-year mortgages, credit cards, long-term loans, common like that, like we talked about. We have $17+ trillion of household debt. Now, an interesting stat about that is we actually have more college loan debt than all the credit card debt in our culture right now, which is crazy too.
That's a whole nother topic for a full podcast also, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big deal. It sets people back years.
People in the 40s, their lifestyle, their average home was right around 1,000 square feet. So just basic amenities, one car or no cars. Home cooked meals all the time, simple entertainment, and now today today, like I said, the houses are 2,300 square feet, multiple cars, multiple households, frequent dining out, streaming, smart devices, Chipotle all the time, and then this was kind of the kicker in the world of taxation. So in the 40s, the highest tax rate that's ever been in our country ever during World War II at the peak was 94%. I don't know if a lot of people knew that.
Highest bracket.
Highest tax rate. Yeah, crazy. The highest tax rate right now in 25 is 37%. There's, some rumblings that those could maybe go up higher in the future. That's a different podcast for a different day. A lot of Americans, they just didn't even file taxes pre-World War II. Very few Americans filed taxes pre-World War II. Most all Americans file federal income taxes, low payroll taxes, and we have significant payroll taxes now, 7.65% employees payroll taxes. So, as I'm thinking about this and talking about like rookie mistakes that a lot of us make it's just this idea of not tracking our cash flows, not tracking our inflows and our outflows, which can go into budgeting, but it's also they're a little subtly different, right? Budgeting and tracking your inflows and outflows are really important. A couple more stats I thought would be very helpful for people to understand. U.S. Bank back in 2023 found that 74% of people who budget regularly, they just feel in more control of their finances. People who have written budgets. I don't know if, back in the day, I remember my mom and dad doing this, like budgeting or like balancing their checkbook with a pencil and then writing down their expenses like with a pencil. But it says people who have written budgets save an average of $300 more per month. So that's $3,600 a year. That's, over a 30-year time frame, that's $180,000 before any rate of return. And we all will know tracking prevents overspending. The average American spends over $7,400 per year on impulse purchases. I'm dealing with this right now with some loved ones in my family.
Yeah, I hit that grocery store and I'm waiting to check out and all those goodies up there by the checkout stand. I have a tendency to grab a few on the way out.
And this will be the last one I'll share, but if you budget, it's going to boost your net worth. And Charles Schwab put out a study in 2022 that says that households who maintain a budget are 2.5 times more likely to report a net worth over $500,000. So I think one of the biggest rookie mistakes that we see is just this lack of tracking your inflows and outflows. And there's some statistics to put some meat, on that statement there, that it's real tangible dollars. And that's where we always say is like, we want to avoid wealth transfers, money that we unknowingly or unnecessarily spend, that just go away from us.
Right.
And it's so easy to do because
It's insane.
there's a million different apps you can put on your phone. Some of them do it automatically. I have one that I actually do manually, and my wife makes fun of me because you guys know I'm a little bit OCD at times, and a little bit. And so like if I'm pumping gas or going out to eat, she'll see me pull up the app and just track it. And I tell the classes that I teach, when they're asking, well, how do I know what to plan for retirement? Well, you got to know what you spend, and the only way that you can do that is to track it.
Yeah.
And so I know is even for as much as we go out to eat, and it's nauseating when you look at that number, but at least it's something that we can plan for.
We've become a consumer society that spends, and then if there's anything left, maybe we'll save it. Or maybe we'll find some impulse buy, as opposed to what you're talking about back in the 40s. And even I would say, our grandparents and parents, basically, they saved first. They put that into their budget. They put that into their cash flows, which is kind of like, I equate it to like 401ks nowadays, where it comes out automatically.
Yeah.
And then people just get used to it. It's almost this forced savings, but taking it a step further, but if actual doing budgeting.
So, but there's power in that, right? So if we start saving early, even if it's just a little bit, I think another thing we can really educate our listeners on is like, quantify the power of saving early.
Oh, there's no doubt. And I know we have young adult children. We do like working with young clients because if you can get them in that habit of saving early, it makes a big difference. I did a quick exercise where, Ed, you said it, most people save into their 401k. They get a job, they're forced to do it. Hopefully you're getting a match, which is why you're doing it. So I ran some numbers, and it's not, obviously in life, it's not going to work this clean. But let's say you get an income, whether it's your own or whether it's combined, and it's $100,000 out of college. Maybe 25, you graduate, you get a job. So I ran these numbers starting at age 25, where you invest in a 401k, and let's say you get a match, and together between what you invest and what your employer is contributing as well, it's $9,000 that's added to that account every single year. And if you did that from 25, you did that to age 60, and you used the market. And what I did with this is I used the market returns of the S&P 500 over the last 25 years and then just repeated it. Mm-hmm. It came out to about $814,000 between the ages of 25 and the age of 60. Now, as you get raises and you can contribute more, that's obviously going to change.
Right.
Now, what if you were in the same age and you and your spouse, you were married and you were disciplined and you each contributed $5,000 to a Roth IRA every single year? That's an additional over $900,000 with those same market returns.
Over the same time?
Over the same time period. So
in addition to the 401k?
So basically, you're looking at, instead of $814,000, it's almost $1 million more by being disciplined and contributing to that Roth IRA every single year.
And you said $5,000 a year to the Roth.
For each of you did $5,000.
Yeah.
So
I mean, even if you did half of that.
If you did half of that.
It's profound.
It is, because of it's market compounding, it's saving, and by starting earlier, it just makes that much more of a difference.
Does that analysis take into taxation?
Well, that's the thing. If you did the Roth, there was no taxation on that.
Right, but versus that 401k.
Depending on what kind of 401k.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So doing that early is so profound. And if you can get young people in the habit of doing that, automate it. Let it come out of your checking account so that you don't see it. It's so
And one of the cool things in our practice we've seen over the past several years are people sending us their kids and saying, hey, you guys have done a great job educating us. This means a lot. Will you talk to our son or daughter who just got that job? They're 24, like you said, 23, 24, and get them on a path early. And that's been a super fruitful thing in my practice. But again, the reason why we're doing that is exactly why you just said. It's tangible. It just shows up. It shows up. And let me tell you, with pensions not being around and the onus on people's financial future being on their habits of saving more so than ever, it's, for our listeners out there, like, get going. Like, get your kids going early.
Have to be disciplined.
Even starting custodial Roth IRAs if they're not 18 yet, and helping feed that and perpetuate that. It doesn't take a lot to create some compounding over time.
For sure.
Yeah.
Ed, you talked about debt earlier.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the story of your son. Is all debt bad?
Great question, B. And when we look at that, it goes to the previous two things we talked about: budgeting, saving early. The earlier the better, everything else. Well, one of the biggest hindrances to being able to do that is the spending in debt. And unlike the federal government, you as an individual somewhat have to balance, meaning what you spend has to be or should be no more than what's coming in.
I got to put some reins on it.
Yeah, and so from that standpoint, well, how do we spend more than what we earn? Well, that's debt, and there's good debt and bad debt. And a saying that I always use to my clients is, as long as you're in control of the debt and the debt does not control you, then it could be a good thing. We hear a lot of the financial talking heads out there that really just have this laser-like focus on, you got to reduce your debt. You can't, no debt. You don't want any debt. Debt's bad. Debt's bad. Well, no, it's not bad. Now, racking up $20,000 of credit card debt that you then carry over and you can't pay the balance on, is that bad debt? Yeah.
Yeah, 20% interest rate.
At 24%, 26%, yeah, that's bad debt. But there's a lot of good debt. Leverage is not necessarily a bad thing, and we talk about it with some of the financial strategies that we use, but something here more relevant and current when we're meeting with clients and we're looking at, one of the biggest debts most clients have is their mortgage, or as Ryan has referred to before, their total outstanding college loan debt.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other issue. But remember, not too long ago, several years ago, what were mortgage rates?
2.5%, 3%.
People were getting 2.5% to 3%
fixed.
30-year fixed. So now they come to us and say, well, listen, I listened to Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman or some other talking head, and they're just telling me I'm making double payments on my mortgage. I got to get that debt paid off. I'm like, okay, your loan's at 2.75% fixed for 30 years. You're making, instead of $1,500 a month, you're paying $3,000 down on that mortgage. Well, what if you redirected that second overage that you're paying, basically the second payment you're making, in this environment, can you get more than 2.75%?
Yeah, in a lot of different areas.
I mean, there's high yield money markets, even, now that are over 4%, and other investments, even more building wealth. We talked about building wealth earlier. Take that and invest. Maybe that's a longer term bucket where you can take some more risk to gain that long term upside. And at the end of the day, you're comparing, all right, should I be aggressively paying down a debt that's at 2.75% interest when I have the option or opportunity, this gets into the opportunity cost of going out and doubling or tripling that without taking a significant level of risk.
Yeah, I think you're talking about just the concept of liquidity, use, and control of your dollar. I mean, don't get us wrong. We want our clients to have their house paid off too. There's a couple different ways to do that. The way you're talking about, the traditional way, where you go from a 30-year fixed down to a 15-year fixed, and you put a few extra payments on that, and it's not inherently wrong to do it that way, and it accomplishes the goal of getting it paid off. But many times it's good to think about the other way, like you said, to have more liquidity, use, and control throughout your life, to have a big 30-year fixed mortgage, give the bank as little as your hard-earned money as possible, and save the rest in an account that is liquid, that's usable, that's controlled. I mean, life rears its head. So, having access to capital makes you a very powerful person. And so therefore I wouldn't view that as a horrible debt. And really at the end of the day, for our listeners out there, a lot of people are thinking, well, your house is an asset or it's a liability. Which one is it? right? And I would say, and you guys I think would agree, is that your house is a tool. And probably one of the most mismanaged debt instruments, if that's what you want to call it in our culture, is home equity management. A lot of people just don't understand how to manage home equity. They don't understand leverage. They don't understand. I mean, some of the wealthiest people that we know of have massive amounts of leverage that creates massive amount of cash flows. So if I've got a mortgage over here of $100,000, but I have a side fund that I have liquidity, use, and control of $150,000, one could argue I'm not really in debt. I mean, if I really, really wanted to, I could snap my fingers, not get one person involved at the bank, and get rid of my mortgage in a minute. But I could never, if I got sick or lost my job, I could never go back and say, oh, can I go back out from my 15-year mortgage to a 30-year mortgage because I really need to lower my payment? And, can I get some home equity out now? Can I do a HELOC or can I do a cash out refinance because I really have some medical issues and things of this nature? They're going to laugh in your face, right? It's illiquid. It's locked up in jail.
Yeah, because you no longer have an earned income.
Correct.
So the scenario that you pose is maximum utilization of an asset.
Correct. And the home is a really, really inflammatory topic amongst a lot of people. And I think that the house is a tool. It's not necessarily a liability all the time, and it's not necessarily an asset all the time. It can be a phenomenal tool as you think about how to build wealth and maintain liquidity, use, and control.
But it goes back to planning. It's customized for each individual. You can't just say one debt is bad and the other debt is good at all times. It just depends on the financial situation of each individual that we're working with.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys have gotten this question as it pertains to the home. Someone is talking to you and they ask, well, should I use this to pay off my house? Well, if you don't have a lot of assets saved up and the little bit that you do is to pay for that house and now you don't have anything left over, is that really a good use of that money just for the sake of paying off the house? Yeah. And so understanding not just about the house, it's the overall picture.
Yeah. That's the concept I like to call asset rich, cash poor.
That's right.
Hey, isn't interest deductible on your mortgage still?
Well, the last I heard, but who knows?
So
if you're itemizing,
that 2.75 interest rate's actually less than that after deductions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's right. Yeah, this was a great conversation, and a lot of times people, when they think about financial planning, it's, well, I got to figure out these tax management strategies and what is my rate of return on my investments, and sometimes it's just good to get back into the basics. If you can do simple things like you can budget because you know what you're spending, you can save, you're disciplined, you've started that early, especially if you're young, understanding the difference between good and bad debt, and you understand that and you incorporate those concepts into your own financial outlay, sometimes simpler is better.
Yeah, and it's a focus on the outcome and objective you're looking to accomplish. So often, well, what's my rate of return? How much am I going to earn on this? It's like, okay, if you want to get to point A to point B, and point B is retirement.
Got to have a process, right?
You got to have a process, and you got to have a plan, right? That's what it all comes down to.
That's right.
There we go.
Yeah, well, good stuff, man. Guys, I appreciate the conversation today. And Huddlers, thank you so much for spending time with us. We look forward to talking to you during our next podcast. Everybody take care.
See you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.